Hey everybody, what is up? My name is Eric McGrew. I just did like a 15-minute video on the wrong Instagram channel live, so now I'm back here. Hopefully this will be interesting to you guys. And today, I'm just talking about some of the stuff that we got recently. And where am I at again? Yeah, I'm on the right one. So there's Surfing Rojito. Matthew, what's up, man? Don't forget to call me when you get a chance, Matthew. We need to talk about that job offer you were talking about potentially. And so today got a few things in from my sponsors. This video, of course, is brought to you by justsenditsaws.com, gaparboristsupply.com, and weaverarborist.com. Have to tell you, my sponsors have been great. Some of the product I got in is from my sponsors. So I got a new pair of Clogger Zeros from Just Send It Saws. Now, I actually am not sponsored by Clogger, but I have worked with Clogger. I've done some product analysis and development with them, which is amazing. The whole team over at Clogger is just superb. I only climb Clogger, not because I haven't tried other brands. I have. The reason I climb Clogger is because I like the fact that Clogger is way cooler than everybody else's that I've climbed in. So for the comfort, I just can't beat it. And until something particularly changes, I will stick with Clogger, even though I'm not officially, linked to them in any way. But that all being said, the team at Clogger works really hard to push new product and new development. Simple things like this pair of G2s has the new lace loop on it so that it clips a little bit better and it works a little bit better. And they're always just refining, and that makes a huge difference in the overall product. So got to give a big shout out to Just Send It Saws first off for helping me out with that. So Matthew, sizing on Clogger is, you can look it up online. Almost all the sites have their sizing on there. I wear a medium and I'm 36 waist. I fluctuate between 34 and 36, something like that. I thought there was a chart on the box somewhere. No, you can go to Clogger. I forgot what their website is. Is it clogger.co.nz? But their sizing is pretty accurate to what you would be accustomed to. It's not like all funky and stuff. But I'd have to look and see what their sizing is specifically, or you could look online. But it's been pretty accurate to me, at least from what I found. So yeah, like I said, being a 36-38, you're on the edge of medium going into large. But I've been okay with just running a medium, and I'm okay with that. Like any pant, they do shrink when you wash them, and then they come back out, but yeah. So super stoked on the Cloggers. Once again, sorry, I'm trying to put this away. Yeah, you're probably a small, Matthew, if you're in a 30. So, yeah, but super stoked about my new Cloggers. I think that's the 5th pair I've owned, and they are totally worth it. So if you're into that, Just Send It Saws sent me a whole bunch of chains. Now, the reason these are in Ziploc baggies, hey, what's up, Davey? These are ripping chains for my new Amazon Chinese Alaskan mill. So they have a much steeper cut on them. If you guys can see that, it's almost flat. And that's because I have a bunch of wood that I'm going to be milling soon. If you look across the yard, I have all of that. That is velvet ash velvet ash behind the locust log, velvet ash, and then 2 more logs of velvet ash. And then that one in the front is locust, honey locust, and honey locust. Yeah, they are full chisel and they're skip tooth. So I'm going to be using those for milling up that wood on my lot. And I guess I think the calculation of it all was right around, what was it, 24,000 pounds of wood. I mean, it's all green, so kind of gives you an idea. The one log, couple of them are easily 25 inches in diameter, like that one there, and these 2 over here. And they are, that one right there is about 22 foot long. So I'll get some decent pieces out of it. And then I have a couple of stubs from trunks that I had to, nub down. And they're about 2 foot tall. And they're, that 25 or so inch, 27 inch. And they will be cut into like cutting boards. Because, man, this ash is pretty aggressive. It's pretty hard wood. It's dense, which is nice. So he sent me Justin at Saul's Lucas sent me 18-inch full chisel, 25-inch full chisel, and those are 36-inch full chisels that I have. And he sent me a brand new Samura light bar, 36-inch, which is awesome because, they get worn out doing the milling stuff. And Weaver Arborist sent me a couple of editions of Arb Climber, which I will be signing and giving away. And those, if you haven't checked out Arb Climber, you really should. It's a really cool magazine. And they definitely deserve the support. So you can get Arb Climber magazine through Gap Arbor Supply as well. Yeah, Davey, I don't have much experience with the chainsaw milling, but yeah, they're totally worth it. Yeah, the website here, let me put it in the comment, but the website is www.justsenditsaws.com. And so I'll tell you, recently I've been kind of shifting over some inventory in my saw collection, and I have, hey Conquistador, what's up, man? So my common saws right now that I use for most of my stuff, because remember guys, I'm not a full-on like remover every day, day in, day out. I do removals. I'm not one of those pretentious guys that's like, oh no, we're not going to remove trees, we're arborists, which I don't think that's realistic either. I try to preserve the trees where I can, but in many cases, they just need to be removed. Poor planting and dead and various other things. People don't have the money to try to save the tree, and what do? Right? So there's that, which is what happened with these velvet ash over here. They were planted right next to a sidewalk, and actually the roots had grown under the sidewalk. The sidewalk was becoming a real trip hazard in front of the house, and the root crown and the root zone was actually growing up and curling over the top of the sidewalk. So they just needed to come out. And on those jobs, most of the big work that I did was with my 461, just for bar reach and whatnot. My 461 is running a Samura light bar, 24-inch, and then it's also got the bark box on it. And I got all that from Just Send It Saws. Plus I've got the West Coast felling dogs on it, which Just Send It Saws also carries. The 661 that I have is pretty much the same setup as the 461, just bigger, and it's running a 36-inch bar, 063. And then I have the Echo 501P, which is fully built by Gary Buxton, and you buy those through Just Send It Saws as well, and that thing is a ripper. You've seen a bunch of videos on my Instagram by it. I gotta tell you guys, like, bang for buck, that saw is amazing. The power to weight ratio, I think it's pushing out right now right at 40% more power than stock, and it's super reliable. The one thing I will say is that being up here in the altitude, I do have to tune it a bit more frequently, and that's a lot to do with air filters and various other things. The air filter on that stock, or the stock air filter on that 501P, isn't super great. The air filter's kind of, I don't know, it's like a little dense for the filter section. It doesn't have as much filter airflow in the factory air filter setup as like other filters do. So you have to clean them more frequently, and you have to tune the saw just a little bit more frequently, especially when you're running such power through it. And I have to run everything lean up here, way more lean than you guys probably do, because I'm way up at like 6,000 feet altitude. But that saw is a ripper. And then I'm running two Echo 2511s. One is slightly modified. It has the muffler drilled for a mod, and I'm running a Oregon quarter bar on it with quarter pitch chain Archer. And then I'm also, the other one is fully built, so I want to say it's like 28% power gain in the 2511. I might be wrong, it might be a little bit more than that. And it also has so that was everything, like ported, polished. I don't know if he decked it, but I think he decked it. And he also has the timing advanced on it and everything, but that thing is a ripper. I mean, serious ripper. It outcuts my 201T by far. And I love that saw. That thing is amazing. Yeah, everything's on back order right now, man. Get it. If you're gonna get one, Davey, I really recommend Just Send It Saws. And that's not just because they're my sponsor. That's because those things, Gary Buxton does an awesome job, and they are very cool. No, actually the noise is sprinklers going off in my yard. I'm trying to get grass to grow. But yeah, go check them out. And those are my favorite saws right now. I'm also running the Makita 36 volt top handle saw, and I really like that saw. For the money, I think that it's the quality of the saw, the way it runs, the handle of it in your hand, the balance, everything. I think it's every bit as good as the Husky saw, and it's a third of the cost. Yeah, Conquistador, you're right, man. So that's something, let me show you guys. So this ground here, we're putting up fencing and stuff, right? This is our new place. And I'm having to use the stump grinder to auger my holes, because even hole augers aren't working. I have a 10-inch hole auger, and I have a like 2.5 horsepower head, and I can get about 2 inches down, and then it just stalls or it skips on the hard clay. I just recently bought a backpack wand injector for deep root, and I can't get it more than an inch in the ground just pressing it in. And then if I have it on 450 psi, leave it running and press it into the ground, it takes 3 minutes to get it 6 inches deep in the ground with the 450 psi running. As you can see, the previous owners did not do much with this. There's some grass up there. This is the apple tree that I've got to do a little bit more pruning on, but this is the one that I also showed you guys. Oh, getting wet. in the video about the hydro excavation. You can lightly see the radials that I did all around the tree, and those are now filled up with peat moss and some fertilizer, some Dr. Earth fruit tree fertilizer, and I also did liquid iron on the site, so I sprayed it all down. But I'm also going to come back with what's it called? I'll answer that in 1 second, Conquistador. So I also am going to come back with the Arborjet. What is that stuff called? Enviroplex and Cytagro, and put in there because they need it. So to answer your question, Conquistador, yes, there's a couple of things here in Colorado where I'm at. So I'm on the western slope, which means that I am 5 hours west of Denver, and I'm at 6,000-ish feet of elevation here. And we are in the adobes area. So it's like this clay, sandy junk that gets really, really hard. And yeah, one thing is that you know about it. And so the ground gets really, really packed, and especially with like newer homes, the problem is the equipment running around on it just packs that junk, especially in the winter. The other thing is that recently a lot of like golf course homes have been being built, and HOA neighborhoods, which, you know, whether you like HOA or not, that's up to you. But the problem is they force people to they force them to plant their landscape within 4 to 6 months of moving in, depending on the HOA. Problem with that is that a lot of these companies are actually planting trees in the middle of the summer, and it's like 100 degrees or 90 degrees, and it's crazy what these landscape guys are doing to plant trees. The information that they're giving my clients is awful. Like, one guy said, measure the root ball, dig a hole exactly the diameter of the root ball, and stick the tree in it because you don't want it to blow over in the wind, which is the most absurd thing I've ever heard in my life. So what we get out here is a lot of trees grow for about 10 years, and then they girdle themselves to death because the ground around them wasn't prepped right, and the ground is so packed, the roots just can't get out. Particularly we see maple trees being a big issue. And so my clients always say things like, well, we asked the landscaper about planting this tree, and I just tell them, as an arborist, would you call me out to diagnose your grass? And they're like, well, no. And I'm like, so why would you ask a landscaper about tree care? And it kind of clicks with them at that point. The other thing is just people doing stupid junk. Arborists, even certified arborists in town, just doing really bad practice work. I get a lot. There's one arborist in town. He's ISA certified or whatever, but he's an old country boy. And like the other day, I ran into one of his guys spraying. He was spraying an HOA tree area, and he had a chemical sprayer on the back of his truck, and the truck wasn't marked. So I'm always looking for sprayers because I don't do spraying. And I stopped, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm with such and such company. I was like, all right, so what are you spraying these trees for? And he's like, oh, I don't know. We just spray all the trees with the same thing. And I was like, well, what do you use? And he's like, I don't really know. And I'm like, seriously? You've got this young kid out there. He's not wearing correct PPE for spraying. It's all like blowing in his face, and they will spray any day. It's blowing it's like blowing 60 mile an hour wind. and they're still spraying. And so like one of the trees he was spraying, only half the tree even got sprayed because the wind was blowing so bad it was like drafting over him and hitting everything behind him, but the tree was only half wet. I don't understand why people can't just do good quality work. I mean, I know it's all about the money for them, but still but the problem is it gives us bad reps because they hired a certified arborist, and that's the kind of work they did, and it's frustrating. So yeah, we lose a lot of trees by poor information. The tree farms don't want to overcomplicate things for people, so they just tell them, oh, just dig a hole and put it in there, but they don't tell them not to bury the root flare or the root crown. They don't tell them to root flare. They don't tell them to expand the hole at least 3 times the diameter. And I do more than that. I expand it, plus I till up around, because so many of our trees out here girdle. Because this is like cement. It is crazy hard out here. And you have to, so even best practice management or best management practices is a good standard, but there's more to it than just that. A lot of it depends on where you live. And probably the third biggest thing is just tree farms and landscapers planting trees that technically can grow here, but aren't the best suited. And they don't tell the homeowner what's needed to make it grow. Like, they plant maples everywhere. What is it called? The fire maples, and a few others. And there's such high iron there's such high iron oriented trees. We have no iron in the ground, and they don't tell them to do anything. They don't tell them to fertilize it. They don't tell them that they need to deep root water these trees or anything. And it's true, cottonwoods out here and elms don't need it, but they have very, very strong root systems that break through all this clay, and they absorb the cottonwoods, man. They'll bring their root system up to the top to absorb moisture in the ambience. A maple doesn't do that like the cottonwoods do to the same level, and it becomes this real issue. So yeah, it's been a challenge on all of that. I do a lot of that kind of work. Yeah, the Siberian elm and the so we have multiple kinds of cottonwoods out here. We have the Sargent cottonwoods. We have the we have the Sargent cottonwoods, the narrow leaf cottonwoods, which I forgot the technical name of those, and then we have some plains cottonwoods out here as well. And that's the most native. That's not like the pinyon or the juniper or whatever, which are totally different variety, So everything else, pretty much, the crab apples, the maples, the ash trees, and that is an awful one. Our ash trees are decimated this year because of the drought. It's absurdly bad. I'm removing ash trees like mad because people can't water them enough. It's been too many droughts, and they haven't been watering them efficiently enough, and they definitely haven't been nutrienting them, giving them the nutrients they need. And it's been pretty aggressive on the ash trees. Conquistador, you're right. It is job security for the nurseries, unfortunately. But what I don't understand is they all want me to guarantee a tree plant. And I can't guarantee planting trees out here because a lot of these trees are super sensitive. And if you don't plant them right and you don't do whatever, but all these landscape companies, they're guarantee it. If the tree dies, they'll actually like replace it. And that just so Matthew, we don't as far as I remember, and as far as I've seen in any of the notations from CSU and various other, the Colorado Forestry Agent, we do not have emerald ash borer here in Montrose. Somebody told me that it had reached Grand Junction, which is an hour and a half northwest of us, but they're at a lower elevation. They're like 1,800 feet lower than we are in elevation. And I have not been able to confirm that yet. But we, mainly out here, ash trees succumb to drought and a few fungal and bacterial infections. There are some borers that get in and mess with them, but it's more of a generic variety of borer versus the emerald ash borer. We have a ton of different varieties of bark beetle out here that are decimating our pine forest. So the pinions, the ponderosas, we have Vercillium wilt that's pretty aggressive toward the Scots and Austrian pine. And we also have a few borers that attack them. And then the junipers and cedars have a borer out here that get them. The challenge I'm having right now, so hey, Conquistador, if you know anybody, I'm looking for somebody who has their SO for supervisual application for insecticide, because I'm the owner of my business, but I haven't done pest control in like 20 years or 15 years, and I don't qualify to be the only one on my crew with an applicator's license. And I would like to get my applicator's license. I'm already doing fertilization programs. I just bought a new setup on a budget, and I'm getting that going. Once it's going, I'll show you guys. But if you guys know of anybody out here on the western slope area or the front range that would be willing to let me work under them as, you know, as my supervisor, and I could check in, I would like to work with them so that I could get my 2 years and get my SO, and then I could run it myself through my company. I would like to talk to somebody and see what they're willing to work out for that. So if you guys have any leads on that, that would be awesome. I'm trying to reach out to a few people. But yeah, so this year, our elms are really dealing with, because of the drought, we're dealing with a lot of European elm scale. There is a scale that attacks our ash a bit out here as well. And then we're dealing with the leaf miners for the elm trees as well, which is a big issue. And in fact, so that's an elm. See all that dead up there? That's leaf miner. That's leaf miner. That's actually my tree I've got to take care of. The very top of that one there is leaf miner. Those are ash out there, and they're dealing with drought syndrome. And that one's got leaf miner in this elm. That one's got leaf miner in this elm. And then a few of these over here have leaf miner in them. I've got to thin all these. We just moved in here, so I haven't had the time I need to, because man, I am so slammed. But I'm trying to keep up with you guys and do my lives, that kind of stuff, because I appreciate your support. I don't want to let you guys down. I know that you can live without me. It's not like I'm that important, but I know that it's also been mentioned to me a number of times that a lot of people appreciate my live videos and whatnot. Matthew, leaf miner is a tiny little bug. Let me see if I can get it's a tiny little insect, and they get in between the outer layers of a leaf and they eat the leaf from the inside. Let me see if I can find any that are active. That's the best way to show you guys. I forget that some of you guys don't know as much about this stuff, because where you're at, you may not be dealing with it as much. It's like everything else. My father-in-law always says, you forget what you didn't know. And that is so very true. You do forget what you didn't know. You just get accustomed, and then you think everybody knows it. So if you can see this, it's kind of hard to see in this one. Hold on. Let me find another one. They're decimating my little tree over here. I've got to get this. So as a general rule, even if you go to like a, what's it called? A garden store, they will have a systemic that your clients can put in the ground and take care of leaf miner. So you don't have to really do it for them. Okay, yeah, that one's got active leaf miner in it. So if you look at this leaf here, on the very bottom, you see all that black in there? I'm trying to get this thing here. Well, they're actually red, yes. They look black in the leaves. But they rattle inside the leaves. It's all that like sandy looking stuff in there. Tiny little insects. And they just they get in between the layers of the leaf. They're actually in there. See how they just float around and move? And they actually eat the leaf from the inside out. Thank you, Davey. I appreciate that, man. They're like blackish red colored, dark brown. So if you buy a systemic that's for miners and borers, they do a ton of damage. The good thing is, because they don't really eat on the tree unless they just really decimate the foliage of the tree, oftentimes they'll die out in the winter and the tree will be okay. But if your tree is weak, then they can be a real problem. And like what we're dealing with out here is that we've had so many droughts. It's just been one issue after another. So when you have all these issues with drought, it becomes an issue that compounded effects affect the tree severely. So like leaf miner, could the tree survive an attack of leaf miner? Most likely, most healthy trees can. But when the tree is already droughted and it's already using all its reserve to try to keep nutrient flow in this bad season, that extra attack might be too much for it. Or like what I deal with here in town this year a lot is European elm scale and leaf miner at the same time with this drought. And then a lot of mature elm trees are just not doing good. Yes, Davey, they can. So there are various leaf miners by variety of tree, kind of like you would have boring insects, right? But yeah, like tomatoes get leaf miner quite a bit. Indoor plants, certain varieties are more susceptible to it. So yeah, they can definitely get there. And all you need is a systemic, pour it on the ground. Arborist and them have some. If you're licensed for application, you can inject it straight into the tree, or you can do deep root injection. But like the stuff you buy from the garden store for the homeowner is going to be something that you mix into a gallon of water and you pour around the trunk of the tree, and the root system uptakes it. And because it's a systemic, it actually is transferred inside the tissue of the tree and the vascular system, and then it goes out to the leaves. And it's kind of like rat poison is the best way I've been able to explain it. Rat poison is designed that a rat doesn't bite the poison and die. They have to eat it regularly, and then they gain a volume of it inside their body, and then they die from it. It dries them out and they die of hydration basically. And so I used to be a pest control agent. That's how I know that. So the systemics are the same way. It's enough in the tissue of the tree that when the leaf miners and boring insects eat the tissue of the tree, they ingest slowly but surely, and then they die, if that makes sense. I have not ever heard of earth juice fertilizers. Do you have a link for them, Davey? I'd be interested in seeing what they've got. Ben with Parkway Trees sent me a link to a guy who's making soil compounds, and they have microbiotic systems that activate soil repurposing, or what's it called? They basically activate like earthworms and things in the ground to try to get the ground to be more fertile. And I've heard good things about them, so I'm going to try to I'm going to try to use those in the future. But the problem I have is they're in Pennsylvania or somewhere over in that area. And if I order, it's like $85 a bale of their peat moss and fertilized soil. And then I have to pay like $30 shipping too. So it becomes quite expensive for that. So I'm trying to keep some stuff more, you know, cost effective for my clients, because it becomes expensive. And that's the problem. There is quite a bit of money in Montrose, believe it or not. There's a lot of wealthy ranchers and things, but the tradition for tree care hasn't been a good one. And so people have been afraid to offer services in the past, and because it's not a common thing, it's hard to get people to buy into it, if that makes any sense. A lot of my clients, though, are listening to reason, and they're wanting me to do fertilization injections. And they're wanting me to do, so I'm doing the radial mulching for a number of people. I'm also doing vertical mulching. But a lot of my programs are based on the multiple applications. So like, you don't want to be tearing up people's grass all the time. So I recommend like radial or vertical mulching once every 1 to 2 years, more likely 2 to 3 years. And then I recommend a more regular, like deep root injection system for the fertilizations to complement the fertilization equipment and methods that you've put into place. So we'll see. The hydro excavation stuff has some serious potential to it, because water's easy to come by. You don't have to rent a big or own a big compressor that's like $30,000, or you don't have to charge your client $400 a day for the rental of the compressor. Plus, essentially, you are deep root watering while you're excavating. And if you know how to use the wand right, you're not tearing up all the roots and damaging the root systems, but you're still excavating. And on top of that, because of the pressure of the water, you're actually separating the soil density, not just where you're excavating, but in the lateral areas. So you're softening and kind of aerating the soil all in one go. So it's kind of a win-win, in my opinion. Now, the problems, of course, are that it's dirty, because you're getting covered with mud and backsplash, and you do have to get the water out of the trenches as you're going along, or it dampens the force of the pressure washer. I just bought a 3200 PSI pressure washer, and that one will be the pressure washer on my mobile unit that I use for the, I'm going to put a regulator on it, and that will be used for my deep root injection of fertilizers and deep root watering, iron applications and all that. And it will be usable for hooking up to a garden hose from the house of my client and excavating for radial mulching and vertical mulching. So I don't know. So far, it looks like it's going to be a really good system. I'm supposed to be going to a Arborist seminar the 24th of August in Aurora, Colorado. So we'll see about that, because that would probably, it should be interesting, and I hope that I will be able to get a little bit more info on some of their products. They have that relatively new product, the air knife, which is competing with the air spade, and I'm going to see that in action. And there's a guy there that builds custom trailer setups for PHC, plant healthcare units. Usually he puts like 300-gallon tanks on them, has the pressure pump system for spraying or for irrigating or whatever, and then you know, you can buy the different wands and things from different people. I also bought a backpack injector. Let me see if I can show you that. It's from Tomahawk. I want to say it was right at $400, maybe 500. I don't remember exactly. I'll have to look it up online. Please forgive my garage. It's insane. It's just, everything is crammed in here. So here's the backpack. It's got a little 2 horsepower motor on it. It carries 5 gallons of water. and it's got this wand, and this is the wand that I was trying to put into the ground. Just put it on the ground. Okay, my signal kind of went bad. So that's the wand right there, and it has the 5 holes on the end. I don't know if you can see that real well, but it's got the 5 holes in there that eject laterally for it to spray out, and that's what I'm doing my deep root injections with currently. And this will be retrofitted to my pressure washing unit as well, so that I can use it off the truck mount. So just gives you guys a little bit of an idea of what I'm using as a basic setup for that. Other than that, I've been using the Good Rigging control system, GRCS. If you haven't used one, totally recommend it. I did get mine through Gap Arborist Supply, of course, because they're my sponsor, and I love dealing with all those guys, Austin, Kyle, Ray. They're amazing. And that thing has changed work forever. It's so incredible. It's absolutely amazing. Now, I did put up a video using it the other day, and then Zach Richards got on to me with total reason. I don't have the power drill for it, Davey. I might, but I don't. Might get it, but right now I'm just figuring out the most efficient ways to use it. Then I'll look at that. But what I did was something really, really dumb, so don't follow this example. I put the GRCS in a tree, and then I had it going straight from the GRCS to the top of another tree with a pulley. And so when we were cranking on it, it was actually trying to pull that tree over from a high lever point, and that's how you get yourself killed. And it was just I was in a rush because something changed and I was trying to get it done, and it's not justifiable. It's just the realities that we have to work against is keeping ourselves safe. But even more than that, the problem is that when the piece fell, because I had it butt tied to the stem I was in, when it fell, it actually took a swing and hit the same line that was crossing from the very top down to the other one, and it could have that dynamic energy hitting that really tense rigging line could have been really bad. It could have pulled the tree over. So yeah, it is a learning experience, Davey. You're right. I try not to have those close call learning processes and experiences. I would rather learn from somebody else than make the mistake myself. But that all being said, what we do is not for the faint of heart. Even though we get complacent with it at times, it's not easy, and you have to have a mathematical and a mechanical mind. And when you're being pressured it was also like 95 degrees and it was just hot up here. You have to calm down, think about it, and really work through it. So I highly recommend the GRCS. I bought the Stein 3001. To be fair with you, it's a third of the cost, but honestly, don't waste your money. Don't buy the Stein unless you get a stupid, really good deal on it. If you need a bollard for dropping huge chunks or big pieces, then get the Stein. The bollard is really good. It's solid, but it's hard to attach to the tree. It's bulky, and it's great for pre-tensioning, but anything beyond pre-tensioning, like you'll see a video out there with Reg Coates lifting, and he's completely right. You can lift logs with it. You can use it for a lot, but it's very cumbersome to use that prusik on the line and have to keep readjusting and setting it. And the GRCS is where it's at. But just know, the GRCS winch is not intended for dynamic falls. So keep that in mind. It's literally intended for lifting the gearing In fact, you have to watch a video that Josiah put out, Tree Strider. He did something wrong. He didn't follow the instructions. He didn't read the information, and he accidentally blew up his GRCS and had to rebuild it. It can happen, so keep that in mind. But if you have long extended branches and you want to swing them or lift them up and drop them down in tight spaces, it is the next best thing to having a crane. And out here, the crane operators that we have, there's like 2 in town. They're not experienced with tree guys. And I've heard some real horror stories about them pre-tensioning way too much or wanting you to drop a piece into their boom. So they leave slack and they want you to drop it in negative like you would if you were negative rigging, which is a dumb idea. So I don't like working with crane operators out here. Not what I want to do. There may be some that are educated enough and know what they're doing, but as a general rule, I haven't found that to be the case out here. Not where we're at. You got to remember, it's still a fairly small town rancher world out here, and so things are not quite as advanced as they would be like in Denver. Grand Junction might have some cranes, but the problem with that is oh, well, I know they do, and they might have experienced crane operators with tree guys, but the problem there is that it's like an hour and a half drive one way, and then it's an hour and a half drive back. So you're paying 3 hours round trip for a crane operator and truck, and that's not cheap. So it's kind of cost prohibitive, but you know, at times it might be what you have to do. I've always figured out ways around it, even though coming up pretty soon, I have a pretty sketchy cottonwood. Yeah, pretty sketchy cottonwood that I've got to do. And I'm hoping that the man lift will reach because I don't want to climb it. It's all the roots have been cut with a chainsaw. It's a old cottonwood. There are mushrooms growing out of the root system like mad. And it's rotten on one side, and it's got big green wood about 80 foot up. So that's going to be a GRCS job as well. So you guys should see some video from that. Trying to find my GoPros. The move has me all discombobulated, so sorry about that, but I'm trying to get there. If you guys have any suggestions, please understand I'm talking about what I've experienced, my ideas, what I've been thinking about, what I've learned. That doesn't mean that I'm 100% right. So if you guys have any suggestions to help me be better with my GRCS work or just rigging in general or with my climbing, I'm always up to hear it. And please do know, I will listen. That doesn't mean that I will apply what you tell me because it may not work that well for me. But I try to apply and at least give a chance to the stuff that you guys are telling me. I have a number of guys out there that are really willing to share with me. Like Zach Richards, he calls me out all the time, zigzagman.zr. And I don't get offended by it. I'm glad. He cares about me. He doesn't want me to die in the tree. He doesn't want me to have a bad day with my client or my crew members. And you know what? I could get offended and be like, oh, well, I'm the, but why? If I listen to him, worst case scenario, I listen to what he has to say. I reevaluate everything I'm doing and I think I'm fine. That's up to me. Best scenario is I reevaluate everything I'm doing. I find a better and safer way to do it and I live longer and make more money. I mean, I know that climbing is a unique thing and not everybody can do it. But seriously, guys, take pride in your work, but don't be prideful is all I'm saying, because pride gets you killed. Thanks, Davey. Yeah, man, of course. It's the community's there it really should be here to help us, not to chastise us and criticize us. Criticism is good sometimes. I will say, just as a PSA, think about how you're applying your criticism though, because you could have the best of intentions, but the way you say it, especially online, remember the way you type it doesn't always mean that's the way it will be read. So try to make it as nice as possible, and people will react way better to it as a general rule, right? So I have thick skin though. I'm not really that worried about it. I've been in the social media and podcasting industry for like over a decade, and I've heard it all. I've heard how stupid I am. I've heard how ridiculous my ideas are and how inexperienced I am and how I'm going to kill somebody with my suggestions. I've even been told that all of my tree service work is a train wreck. So, you know, it is what it is. You open yourself up to help people, and there's always going to be somebody out there to bash you. So if you don't have the thick skin for it, don't do it. But if you think you can handle somebody rejecting your criticism or backlashing on you because you were trying to be helpful, just know that that's a possibility, but you won't get it from me. So yeah, thanks guys. I've got more to talk about with you guys, but I'm just trying to get back into the routine of the lives again. I'm so glad that so many people stopped by. Thank you all for the support. I will be sending out these, let's see. I wish I could see who's, okay, so Matthew, Davey, and Conquistador of the Useless are on. I will send all three of you something. Could you please DM me your addresses, and I will send all three of you something. Not sure exactly what yet, but you'll get something from me. And I'll try to I'll try to do my best to get it out on Monday. So be sure to send me you guys addresses as soon as I end this, and make sure you send them to my private messages on Instagram. Okay? So thank you guys, and I will see you all later. Take care. You too, Davey. Really appreciate it, man.